What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Writers. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast. We're here to talk about Kamen Rider Gotchard, episode 28. I am your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Pretty good, Josh. I'm going to hit you tonight with a tale of human disgust. And you tell me, how bad you feel as the story progresses.
Let me just start off by saying that I already feel kind of bad, just in general, like in life. Like I think I had too much dinner, just feeling a little nauseous, little uneasy. So this is a good place to start.
Oh, this is definitely a good place to start because it's food involved.
Love it.
So
this is just gonna be the Josh Throws Up podcast. Here we go.
Don't mute it if it happens. I want to hear you running, screaming down the hall.
Everyone gets the full effect.
So the other day we went to like a large family and friends gathering for someone's like engagement party kind of thing.
Okay.
So dinner starts. It's buffet. Everyone brought a dish style. Of course, there's some of the foods I don't eat, as we've discussed in the past. So I go through, get all my food, having a good time. Everyone else gets their food after me. So everyone's sitting down enjoying. And there was like pulled pork and ham slices, but they were in crock pots. So I'm sitting there eating, happen to look around, and I see someone go to refill the crock pots. But instead of using anything else to fill the crock pot, they put their hand into a bag of sliced ham pieces,
No.
and just threw the ham in the crock pot by hand. Now,
That's
luckily,
weird.
I don't eat meat, but how much would that skeeve you out if you saw a random person that probably wasn't related to you touching lukewarm, already cooked food barehanded and putting in like a ham sauna to stay warm?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm the thing that took me aback here. That does sound initially very gross. I'm just like, oh God, yeah, no. But then I also was thinking, like, when I was starting that dish, I wouldn't have been weirded out if as me making that, right? Like I would have washed my hands and then potentially used my hands to put it into the crock pot, and I wouldn't have thought that that was very weird. Like like at the very beginning, right? You put it in and then you turn the crock pot on.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like
home chefing, I would put
home
it in a
chefing, yeah.
different. I would put in a different bracket because I obviously have to touch the food to do things with it, and
Yes, okay, but
that's also you and your direct family.
true,
Like
yeah.
if I cough on the spoon before I serve the household here, I know where the germs are going. It's safe. This isn't a public event with 30
There's
people.
also some amount of like if you are like cooking me a steak and you touch it with your bare hands before you put it on the grill or something, like you're heating that thing up to a level that like any germs from your hand is probably gone, right? You've
Yeah,
burned them off. But if you put something in a crock pot, like you said, that's getting it like, just above room temperature, just
it just goes in
warming
the
that stuff
sauna.
up. Yeah, exactly. Just goes in that little like perfect little like germ contamination little chamber. And if for nothing else than appearances, I would have gotten some tongs in this situation, or like dumped straight from the bag or something without touching the meat or something. Just because like yeah, they could have like washed their hands like immensely before this. They could have scrubbed down like they were ready for surgery. It still is just gonna look weird to people. Like
The
it's
optics,
just
they're
yeah.
very poor optics.
Yeah, but poor optics indeed. uh yeah, that would have I think if I had been because I would have been sitting there with a plate of the meat, and that if I saw that go down, I think I would have like probably pushed it aside, not stopped eating it. That's
Yeah.
a little off putting. Though if you really think about any kind of like potluck style meal, if you think about it too hard, it's pretty gross no matter what, right? Like it's just like the I feel like in any other given meal, like there's like one vector of danger in a meal because it's like, do you trust the person who made it or not? Like you're always making that decision, right? But in a potluck, it's like, do you trust like the 40 people who brought these dishes? Like there's so much more room for danger because there's so much more room for like just potentially idiots and bad actors to be bringing dishes.
It's funny because like sitting here and thinking about it, Like, I obviously I brought up as more of a joke because it was just a really weird thing to watch.
Yeah.
But, like, I'll go to, like, buffets all the time, and, people are coughing, sneezing, spitting in those things, and I don't even think about it. I like, that's
Yeah.
just, like, the assumed risk I take when I wanna eat like a big hoss.
I will say those little like face shields at buffets in my head are doing a lot of work. They're probably not actually doing anything. And like I'm sure you've seen it too. The people who like lean underneath the face shield or like, do something to like get around it, and you're just like, oh yeah, you've made me think about this in reality now. It's
Well,
just yeah.
they're always at some weird gap, like, maybe because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
a little bit taller, but they're at a height for me that's hard to work around, where I have to do, like, a weird squat while I'm holding a plate and, like, trying to scoop things on doesn't work well, and I drop stuff or like, I feel bad if like, let's say, like, the hot peppers are all the way in the back, and then, like, the rice is in front of it. I'm trying to, like, grab my hot peppers with the weird squat, turn to my shoulder in, but if they fall in the rice, I'm only gonna really do so much to get it out of the rice, and I just
Yeah.
do that as,
That's
like,
kind of
accepted risk for the next people too.
sure. Yeah, yeah. I think that that's reasonable. I feel like at a buffet you're gonna get some cross contamination. It's just gonna happen. That's just how. That's just the cost of doing business at a buffet. That move that you just described though, the like I'm reaching for the thing in the back, but the face shield is kind of in the way. So then you're doing this like weird crouch, get my shoulder in there,
Yeah,
smush my
it's
face
so
up
it's
against
so
the
annoying.
glass. Everyone knows that move, and it's such a like a natural move. It's so fun. It's just like it painted a perfect picture in my mind for that.
Excellent. And then the one place we go to a lot has a buffet, but they took the guards themselves out, but the poles that held the guards in are still there. So, like, you can get some better lean going, but then you also have to, like, not, like, stab yourself in the eye with a giant pole. So I feel like that's
Yeah,
actually more dangerous than the sneezing.
I'm guessing that's a Chinese buffet.
It's actually not, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The Chinese buffets, I feel like, have the proper height down. It's really, like, the other places that go out of their way that wanna, like, bring the power of the Chinese buffet to their establishment. That's really the problem.
Yeah. I find that the Chinese buffets around here are the ones where it's like, you know, something breaks, we're not really gonna fix it. We're just gonna sort of put up extra tape and extra signs that say, "Don't stab yourself on the poles," and it'll be okay.
Glass might
Uh,
be in the noodles, eat around it.
yeah. There's always some level of jank associated with the Chinese buffet for some reason, and I don't quite understand why. Uh, but yeah, there and when you go, I don't know about your Chinese buffets, but the ones around me, it's always like you show up and like the person that either seats you or the person that you pay at the end is about a 12-year-old girl who's doing her homework while you're trying to do your business, and it's just like it's just weird and awkward. Like she's got all her school books out, like it's like clearly some child labor is going on. Yeah,
I
it's always
Ours aren't
always
that
fun.
dramatic, but there's a place by my house that's, like, just a normal Chinese restaurant, and I've lived in my area now for almost 13 years. When I moved into the house, the same lady with her family has owned the same restaurant.
That's awesome.
So, it's actually cool to me because when I go in, she's still just as happy as I remember, like, the past decade, and
Rad.
she used to have her one young son do the math on the calculator to tell me how much I owed, which was always fine. Like, would have loved that as a kid too. Not I
Yeah.
don't know if he likes it or not. I always thought it was cool. But, like, they're grown now and they work there, or, like, they're, like, fully functioning humans and not little people. And it's actually
You
just really
you've
cool
watched
for me to
these
see,
kids
like,
grow up through your
yeah,
ordering.
it's legit like a family business I've watched grow over the years.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a place that's very similar to that around here that we don't actually get food from enough, but, yeah, every time I've ever been there, it's clearly the family business, and it is, yeah, the, like I think even, like, maybe grandparents and then, like, a kid and then grandkids even. I think it might be 3 generations, which is funny, but, tell me what's the best buffet? I don't know that we've answered this question on this podcast yet. It's a discussion that, of course, you know a lot about, but,
It launches ships. So, I think pizza is still the best one, but they've moved all the pizza buffets away from me. So it's kind of
yep.
like it's kind of a nightmare now to try to find one. I actually found a new one the other day. I haven't tried yet, but it's like an hour
Ooh,
away, so it's definitely gonna be a trip where I have to like plan specifically to go do this. But more recently,
nice.
like a lot of diners that are around here still have like all you can eat salad bars, and I've oddly grown on the all you can eat salad bars because like salad on the right move, like is just so good. So you get like 4 plates of it, and they always have like the coleslaw and the potato salad and everything there. So
Hell
good.
yeah. No, I listen, I'm not sleeping on the salad bars. My go-to move around here is, I guess not really around here as much, but, occasionally around here. Like, the ones around here are in, like there's one in Whole Foods, which is, like, too expensive, but
Oh yeah, I know
there
those ones, the pay by the
yeah.
pound ones.
Yeah, 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 but growing up, there was a, like, local grocery store, that did the exact same thing that was, like, pay by the pound, but theirs was incredible. It would put Whole Foods to shame, the stuff, like, they had, it was so amazing, and that was legit one of my favorite, like, dinners as a kid, was to get to go there and make my salad bar, big, huge thing, and take that home to eat it, because it was like half salad, and then you'd get like pudding and all whatever else was on their thing. It didn't end up being healthy, of course, but like it was still good, and the salad part was still really good too. But yeah, that's super fun. That's always my like golden goose of a salad bar, is finding one of those types of things. And yeah, the closest around here is the stupid Whole Foods, which like does not cut it. I don't
Nine
know if
ninety
you've
nine at
been.
9.99 a pound, and everything weighs a decent amount.
Yeah, yeah, like, I feel like the Whole Foods, like, their per pound is too expensive, and everything that they have is pretty heavy, so, yeah, you end up the first time we went to Whole Foods for that, we, like, weren't really paying a close attention to, like, sort of, like, how heavy, I guess, we were making our food, and then, like, we got, like, just some extra stuff too, like, on there, like a dessert and stuff, and we just when we checked out, I think we both had, like, sticker shock of just like, "Oh my god, we could've went to, like, a nice restaurant, like, what are we doing?"
Yeah, that's always my thing where, like, when I was in college, we used to always go to the one grocery store for just, like, the plain salad bar. That was, like,
Uh-huh.
our Monday or Tuesday night tradition before we grocery shopped. I mean, like, the game was how much salad can one of us eat in one sitting? Because like, I've been a dumb person forever. But I remember, like, a pound of salad was, like, $4
Yeah,
back in my times. And now, like, all the fancy dumb salad bars are, like, 8 or $9 a pound, which is upsetting, but especially with, like, even with the Chinese buffet price going up, if I get Chinese food from, like, one of the hot bars at a grocery store, to even get, like, a take-homeable amount that will not fill me up is, like, $13. So
yeah,
I might as
yeah,
well
yeah,
just go to the buffet and spend
might as well.
12 and just get extra fat.
Yeah, that's the answer for why we don't go to the one Chinese place around here, because it isn't the buffet, it's the takeout place. And yeah, like any dish you're buying is gonna be like 13 flat basically there. It's like, well, yeah, I might as well just go to the Chinese buffet and get all the things I want for that price. But I will agree with you on the pizza's the best. We've talked about that before, of course, off this podcast, but I will concur pizza's the best. But I too have had the similar experience of just like, there's not a good pizza buffet around me. Like, I feel like used to be there were good pizza buffets. Now there just aren't. Just aren't really any that I'm like digging. Aren't really any that I can even think of. There's one I think that's like semi far away, and the last time I went to it, it was sketchy, like really really sketchy. Like I might get a foodborne illness type of sketchy.
Well, like, our
So
thing was we had a CC's here, and theirs
yeah,
was, at this time, $6 for all you can eat pizza. We used to always do it for lunch, and in my brain, I always said the more pizza I can eat, the cheaper it is per slice, and that's always my go-to move. The more I eat, the cheaper the meal actually was.
sure.
So my record there was 17 pieces one day for lunch during work. And I went back to work with a food coma, but I ate 17 pieces because I could. And the highlight of that to me was all my coworkers at that job were mostly Indian. So they all ate, like, I'm gonna call them like like a normal person of any budget
Normal
would eat.
person. Yeah.
They weren't into the US gluttony. They weren't into these things. They would just go with me because it was fun to go with. So the one time I helped the one kid do something at his mom's house. So she was like, "Oh, you're Toby. I hear about you all the time." And I was like, "Yep, nice to meet you." So whoever it was, blah blah blah. And she was like, "Are you the one that ate all the pizza at the pizza place?"
Amazing.
So I was stoked that, like, my 30-year-old friend told his mom, like, I work with this crazy American guy. He ate all this pizza. Like it was a story to take home to his mom, who's when he was adult and she was an
I was
adult
gonna
too.
say, not just a story to take home to his mom, and a story to take home as an adult to his mom is like extra. That's incredible.
And even
You
if the presentation, like, because like she laughed and he laughed, but like even if the presentation was like, man, my coworker eats like a fat slob. He ate 17 pieces of pizza at lunch today. The story still made it places.
your legend precedes you.
The way that's
Congratulations.
that's the way I like it.
Oh, Toby, speaking of legends preceding them, we have a legend in our midst that sent us an email this week. Jumping over to the emails, Shade is quite a legend who has sent us many emails over the years, I can say now.
I was
Uh
actually gonna swerve it the other direction if you want to do that first, but you go right ahead.
what was the other direction?
So speaking of food, Josh, we have a Patreon with some of the finest chefs in all the world hanging out in there, and everyone should join our Patreon.
Oh god. All right, yeah, let's get this over with. Our Patreon, listen, I'll play bad cop. Our Patreon's a nightmare hellscape, everybody.
But we do fun Common Rider things here, so it's okay.
Do we want to tell the story about the Patreon? Uh yeah, all right. So let's just quick summary here of what's been occurring in our Discord, our Patreon Discord, which you can join.
Well, first, okay, there you go.
Which
Just in case you skipped it, go ahead.
you can join over at patreon.com/the comment writers. $1 gets you into this Discord that we're going to tell a nightmare story about. $3 gets you our bonus content actually as well. So you can watch along now both Common Writer and Super Sentai with us every single week, which is very fun. But for $1, patreon.com/the comment writers gets you in here. And in the Discord the other day, a fateful day, I will say. One of our members, who's also written an email, so if you're a listener, you might know the name, Charlie from Texas, comes into the Discord in a rushed tone. He very very hurriedly and exclaims that the tank of a toilet is food safe. Now, that's gonna ask more questions than it answers, of course, Toby. And I don't really have the answers to those questions, but Charlie was very excited about this fact that the tank would be food safe. Now, it is definitely a thing that our listeners and our friends would do is you're not just going to let that information slide, you're going to follow up on it. So of course Liv in our Discord had to ask some questions and say, well, sure, yeah, that it might be food safe, but what are you going to do? You're going to like boil some hot dogs in there. If you start boiling, you start putting hot water, those plastic parts, they're not going to be food safe, they're not going to hold up. So there's a whole discussion about how to turn the tank of a toilet into the perfect hot dog cooker. What you would need to do, how you would change out the plastic parts and fix the valves, and how you would make this whole thing work.
I've never been so proud. Just for
It
the
was
record,
it
I'm I'm
was an
gonna,
incredible, yeah.
I'm not even playing
It
good cop or bad cop. I'm just saying I've never been so proud.
it was one for the ages. It was a very good I'll say Toby and Josh podcast-esque conversation talking about this nonsense. And we thought that was it. We thought that was the end of the strange conversation about cooking hot dogs at the end in the tank of your toilet. But turns out, Toby, let me again paint the picture as I did in the Discord.
Wordsmith
uh
it.
Wordsmith it. Yeah. So I, had an evening last night. Was downstairs in the basement. I was working on the train table a little bit. I watched Common Rider. I come back up, upstairs. I get all tucked into bed as you do. I do the last phone check before I'm getting ready to turn everything off and fall asleep. And I see that there's a message in our Discord. Not just a message, it's a video that's been posted in our Discord. So I pull it up. I'm gonna watch this video, see what it's about, and then I'm gonna go to sleep. And what I see, Toby, what befalls my eyes is a video from Charlie wherein he is. And by the way, this video is it's presented in like first person point of view. So I see him entering his bathroom. Uh, he removes the lid from his this from the tank of his toilet. He clicks a pair of tongs that he's now produced, and he reaches into the tank of his toilet to produce the hot dog that had been marinating from within the toilet. And he reported, Toby, that it wasn't quite done yet.
Oh, people.
I am both incredibly impressed. I laughed my ass off, and also I'm incredibly disturbed all at the same time. uh,
This is what we're cultivating.
it's really
Much like the germs in the hot dog, we're cultivating quite the following, and you can join us for only $1 a month.
we did speculate on on the potential necessity for making a special shame tier of the Patreon where if you're gonna post videos like that, you have to pay $20 and you get shuffled off into a special side area.
I put everyone
But
everyone's going in the gulag.
yeah, exactly. Yes, for a mere $1 per month, you too can experience that level of madness. And yes, for $3 a month, you can get bonus content on top of that, which is also very fun. As I mentioned, right now we are watching both Kamen Rider Xaid and Boon Boomjer, the newest Super Sentai. So each week you get a new episode of each of those where we watch along with you. We talk about it as we're watching. It's kind of like Mystery Science Theater, but for Sentai and but for Kamen Rider, and it's super fun. So if you sign up now, you get all of our past episodes, watching through all of Xaid, all of Kamen Rider Black Sun, tons and tons of content, and you can check all that out over at patreon.com/the Comment Riders. Now, Toby, we do have an email, so let's jump over to the emails as well.
Let's get off this
Our
crazy
email,
train.
our email comes in from our, I think, more sane friend Shade than some of our other friends. Shade says the subject is a gotcha in a small village featuring Kajiki. Shade says, "Hello, everybody. I am back again for another email and blog delivery." And Shade links the latest producer blog here for episode 28. Shade says, as the blog mentioned last time, this episode was directed by popular Ultraman director Kiyotaka Taguchi. Personally, I haven't seen much of his work yet, but I did watch Ultraman Blazar, and I gotta say, I think I recognize some familiar patterns. First off is those hilarious close-ups that he uses, which we definitely saw in this episode. Watching Blazar, I've always noticed those close-ups, and I thought that was a bold choice. Glad to see that's the style. Second is where the episode took place in Ultraman Blazar. There were a lot of episodes that focused on the rural/small town Japan area and how the people's lives there are affected by modern change. This seems to be a topic that's very important to him since he has used this plotline in at least 2 different series. Finally, I want to talk a little bit more about a guest for this episode, The Exorcist. Continuing the trend of having Ultraman people in the series, again, the actor Takaya Aogi also plays an extremely popular Ultraman villain, Jugless Juggler. That's a great name. He's so popular that some would even argue that he is the Ultraman equivalent of Dan Kuroto from Xaid. And then Shade links a couple videos of Jugless Juggler in action and says, in fact, the scene where he was reaching for the 4 colorful orbs is a reference to his character in Ultraman Orb. So there you go. So a little bit of Ultraman mixing up with my Kamen Rider. You got your Ultraman in my Kamen Rider. You got your Kamen Rider in my Ultraman. It's like peanut butter and
People
jelly.
get that. No, it's Reese's peanut butter.
Is that
Cups.
what that is? I didn't know
Yeah,
what I
you
was.
idiot. You got peanut butter in my chocolate. You got chocolate in my peanut butter.
Sometimes things get so like pervasive in pop culture, you don't even know where it's from. You just know like you're referencing a thing, and that's what happened to me right then. But we thank Shade very much for that email. And if you want to send it us in an email, you can do that. It is cast@commonwritersucks.com. That is the email address. Once again, cast@commonwritersucks.com. And Toby, we are here to talk about episode 28 of Gotchard, as Shade there had mentioned, with a couple of the points. So let's jump over and let's talk about Gotchard episode 28, shall we?
Let's go ahead.
Of course, this episode is I'll say a bit of a reset or maybe an intermission because we had the big ending last time around where we defeated Garion seemingly, and things kind of started going back to normal. Minato is back in the fold now. Everyone's like remotely relatively happy, and things are calm. So because things are calm, Toby, Ringe has taken this opportunity to go visit her grandmother with a surprise visit.
A
And
beautiful family vacation.
indeed, out to the Japanese countryside. Her grandma lives in this little village, and her grandma's super fun. Like wants to give her a piggyback ride right off the bat, and clearly just loves Renge very very deeply. Toby,
So yeah, of course, I got my well-known grandmother vibes from this one. Where like Renge's like, I'm entirely too big for a piggyback ride, and Grandma's like, no, but I'm just doing it, so don't worry about it. And that's
yeah,
exactly the same kind of shit my grandmother would do. Where like, I guess it's kind of like the parent vibe too, where it's usually like you're the baby forever, and it doesn't matter how old
yes,
you are, you're still the baby. So it was just a very nice, happy little moment to set up a pretty silly episode.
totally. And of course, we always have known that Renge was from like the countryside, basically. Like they translate her to make her seem like she's doing like a southern accent, which we've learned
The
before.
lovable country bumpkin from Kansai, right? I guess it was. I
I
remember the Yakuza jokes. I remember Kansai coming up as like the,
think that's right.
oh,
Yeah,
you have the southern drawl. You use the hillbilly terms.
right.
So, but she might not be, but that's what I remember.
It was so it's cool to see the origins of the accent and stuff here. So she's there, she's unpacking, she's talking about how her grandma treats her as a kid, but clearly she's pretty excited about being there and being with her nana. But then something happens, Toby. She hears a knocking coming from the closet. She goes to check, she peeks her head in, she doesn't see anything at first, but then she turns around and there is a monster that I simply cannot explain here. I'm gonna do my best. It is I think it's like an umbrella with a leg sticking out the bottom, and then a big, huge tongue that like licks her across the face and slimes her.
And like all I got was actual like Ghostbusters Slimer vibe, because the the ooze that they use, the ectoplasm, I guess we can call it.
Sure.
It doesn't look as like, I guess like if it was America, it'd be like greenish or yellow or real gross and goopy looking. This almost just looked like clear syrup, and it was just kind of really weird. It was like just pure spit.
Yeah, it was clear, and that made it way worse for me. I wanted it to be like green ectoplasm, but no, it was just clear and it was very goopy. And there's a lot of it in this episode. We see it a couple times, and it is super gross. Yeah. Uh speaking of
Real,
speaking of ectoplasm, I did see the new Ghostbusters, Toby. A 5 second review is it was not a perfect movie, but it was pretty good. Pretty fun. I liked it. So go see it if you're interested in Ghostbusters or if
just
you're
so you
interested in
know,
watching people get slimed.
there you go. The umbrella with a foot is a Kasa Obake, which is a mythical ghost from Japanese folklore.
Okay, that good. I'm glad there's like an explanation for this because it's so strange.
They are basically, it is known as a Tsukumogami, which is basically a tool that has acquired a kami or a spirit.
Okay. What kind of a tool is a leg umbrella? What
Well,
would that be used
I
for?
guess like the umbrella has the handle foot thing, so I guess that would be,
Okay, it's just become a leg, just
yeah.
sprouted a leg. Because here it almost looks like a mannequin leg at times. Like at one point before I realized it was supposed to be more of an umbrella, I thought it was a leg lamp that was attacking them at first, like Christmas Vacation style.
And then there's
Uh,
also umbrella folklores, where one is that a rain umbrella appears in valleys on rainy nights, and those who would see it would cower and not be able to move their feet. And there's another one that's called Yurigasa, which is a ghost umbrella that has one eye and one foot, much like the one in this episode. But it says that on days of strong wind, they blow people up into the sky. So I guess
Whoa.
it's based off of like two different known Japanese folklore spirit yokai thingies. So it does make
Oh,
sense. In theory,
okay.
it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a culture thing where it would have been a bit less out of left field if we knew about that. At this point, Toby, we cut back to Hodoro and to Kudo and to Spanner, and they are with Minato. Of course, he's now he's heading back to the academy. They all are to their classroom, and Minato is like a little sad because he's like he's sorry about what he put them through, but they all kind of like reassure him, and they're like, "Hey, we want you here. We're happy you're here." And they enter their classroom and they're all very excited to be back, especially Hodoro. Like, "Oh, we're back in our classroom, yeah!"
The biggest,
They're
worst
very
nerd.
stoked. Yeah, totally.
The kind of kid that was like, "Hey, you told us we were gonna have a test today, and we didn't take a test yet. Don't forget, we were gonna take a test today." I'm like, no, that's the
He
kid
is
you
that
hate.
person. He is 100% that person. We
Oh,
also find out
we forgot to grade our homework. Don't you remember we had homework to do? And those are always
yeah,
the days I didn't do my homework. I would get so pissed off.
you should just do your homework every day, and it wouldn't be a
Nah,
problem.
that's not gonna happen.
Then we find out Toby at this in this scene, um, which I think had been a discussion point at some point in our Discord as well. But they have 78 of the 101 chemis currently captured so far. So there are still chemis that we haven't seen of the 101. And clearly, they'll be coming up probably in the rest of the series here. But that's the number they're currently at is 78.
And there's chemis that we haven't seen that have been captured that we'll never know about as
Yeah,
well.
never ever. Yeah, just exactly. Maybe he flipped by them when he was flipping through the giant deck of cards. Who knows? Spanner asks where the other two are. Apparently, Sabi is at his parents' house trying to fix Isaac, who got broken last episode. And then they explain that um, Renge is off with her grandmother, and they get a call from her in a second. But first, they watch a video, which comes from the basically like the alchemy head council, the alchemy kind of leaders. And they kind of just say like, "Oh wow, we didn't expect Garion to be a bad guy, huh? Well, okay, thanks."
That was a real thing.
And the guy, looks creepy. He's got his hood on and stuff like we've seen before. So, last time we saw them, I was pretty sure that they were going to be evil. And at this point now, I'm just confused why they exist. Maybe they'll still be evil. But
They're more just like the like lazy CEOs. They're
yeah.
just kind of like, oh, we thought that would go differently. Okay, yeah, cool. All right, it's done.
And Minato does actually reference like, like, hey, it's a corporation. Corporations are slow to change. He's like, unless there's like big turnover in basically he says like unless there's like big turnover in executive leadership. So it's like so are you gonna just take over the whole alchemy business? Is that's what it sounds like to me. So I think him and Spanner's mom are gonna become the new alchemy council by the end of this.
Or you,
I guess Spanner would have to be part of it too, probably.
I was gonna say like all of them. This is th-
I mean, these kids are still
that seems like action,
students.
but
They're
you will
not
know
they
that.
haven't graduated yet.
But Spanner's more important than Minato, and he's a kid.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, I think well, yeah, sure. But like the other four, like we know that Sabi and Renge are at least one grade further, one level higher than Hodoro and Kudo are. So Hodoro and Kudo seem like they have at least one more year of alchemy class to go through. Maybe they get bonus points for, saving the world multiple times or whatever, but
I was gonna say like, you mean to tell me that when little Hodoro himself saves the world, that they're gonna be like, "Oh, you're still just a dumb kid, so yeah, we're not gonna worry about this, I guess."
that's exactly how things would work. Yes. Thanks for saving the world. Now go back to junior high. Then they do get their call from Renge. She's in a panic. She wants them to come to her grandmother's village, of course, and she says that she has seen a yokai, which is kind of as you were describing, like a ghost that has like embodied a physical object. I think is what all the yokai are, but a Japanese ghost, basically.
and
Um,
I guess like again with the cultural thing that even made it over here. Like we have games called Yokai Watch, which is basically like Pokemon but ghosts.
Yep.
So it's definitely like a huge known entity thing idea in Japanese culture. But it's funny because like if they wouldn't have shown the ghost sliming Renge, I would have sworn this was gonna be like a bottle episode where the four of them just kind of like hang out in the school and bullshit for the whole time.
Me too. Yeah.
But there's a little bit more of a setup where like okay I know they're leaving, they're getting back out of here. Uh, Sabi might not be there because of the Isaac thing, but the rest of them are definitely going.
It did feel like that. The way that they entered the classroom and then like watched the video and like it felt like they were just gonna stick around and like, you know, do stuff there and reminisce and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad they left, of course, but it did I definitely felt that vibe for sure. Uh Also on this call, we get to see our first glimpse of the Exorcist, as mentioned during the email section. Starshine Hoshino. And this guy is something else. He's way over the top. He's got poses and stuff. And Kajiki is with him, the friend of Hodoro who loves his occult things, loves his UFOs, and now he has fallen in with this exorcist Hoshino for some strange reason.
Well, because they're a perfect fit as friends. You figure
They
Hodor's
are.
never around anymore, so Kajiki finding like a top level ghost spirit man makes sense of like this is the kind of guy I want to back.
It totally 100% makes sense. Really, Hodoro pushed him away and shoved him right into the arms of Hoshino. So everybody hurries over to get to grandmother's village. It apparently doesn't take very long because you know there's no travel time. They're there in the same night. It appears. When they arrive, they see a hitodama, like a floating
The little fiery ghost spirit thing.
flame ghost thing. Yeah, and Hodoro is freaked out. We continue the trend where Kudo loves scary things and loves ghosts. Because if you remember when they went to the haunted house, she was like so down for all of it. So I love that that has continued, where she just is like, "Yes, I'm so stoked for ghosts. Show me all the ghosts."
I wrote that down as a note too. I'm stoked that they at least vaguely remember the backstory they've assigned to the kids.
Yeah,
So it's cool that they actually like kept up with her and like, yeah, she loved this last time. Like she should definitely be the one that goes along with this and is like, oh no, we're definitely going after it. We're definitely going in there. We're definitely doing whatever.
yeah, because she bolts after it. Um, and that was a long time ago when we found that out about her character, and like it wasn't a major plot point in that episode. So I yes, I appreciate that they remembered that. That is definitely not a given that would have been remembered. They follow the flame into like a barn type thing, and this is where Hodoro gets slimed. And it like drips on his neck, which is like especially gross. um, I think yeah, then they see the weird, crazy leg umbrella monster flies down at him. Hodoro's freaked out. um, they, in a hilarious scene, both Renge and Kudo force Hodoro to henshin. Like they
Yeah.
slap his driver on him. They slap the cards in, and he's like, "No, no, don't do that. Wait, wait." I loved that. I loved the forcing him to henshin thing. That was really good. He runs off and chases them into the forest, and he doesn't really have much luck, I think, because he's so scared, and ends up he gets his butt burned. He like falls on the flame, and it burns his little butt.
Which was impressive considering he has a whole giant armored outfit on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Hodoro attempts to catch it, ends up dehensioning, and then Grandma arrives out into the darkness. She's going to again protect her precious Renge. But before really anything else can happen, the exorcist Hoshino arrives, and he clearly has some kind of power because he does get the yokai and the flame to kind of go away. And the grandma definitely is in on him being like an impressive character at this point.
Well,
Uh,
he shoots basically like magic orbs of four elements: water, wood, metal, and earth. So at this point in the episode, I felt like he was in on the ghost, like a good scammer would
Yeah,
make
me
sure
too.
he could convince people that the scam is real and that he could actually like catch a ghost. Like most of the classic, like even like Ghostbusters. Oh yeah, we can catch ghosts and pretend like it's a real thing, even though it's not. And it turns out to be a real thing, and you're like, oh shit, now what? So I got the same vibe from him of like he did something to like quote unquote scare the ghost away. But I also thought he was controlling the ghost.
That's true. The Ghostbusters thought ghosts were real the whole time. I just need to point that out.
Okay,
You're
people
slandering
know
the
people
Ghostbusters.
know people know what I meant, and that's not true because when Venkman goes to Dana's house, she's like, "Oh my god, there's stuff in the fridge," and he thought that she was lying because he was like, "Look at all the junk food you have in here. You eat this crap." So there's
No,
definitely
he's the skeptic of the group, but he also had just been in the library, and he knew that all that stuff happened in the library. He knew there was slime on the bookcases and stuff. He got to see the ghost in the library before this. If he saw a ghost literally in front of him, and then the scene later decided ghosts weren't real, then I can't help that.
let's tabletop this Ghostbusters conversation.
All right. I'll fight you about Ghostbusters offline. um, let's see. Oh yeah, so part of the you were talking about the orbs that he has. So like the fire that burnt Hodoro's butt goes and basically joins in the orb. So then he has like I think 5 total orbs around his neck. So
he,
he's collected his final orb.
yeah, he finally got the last one because the I guess apparently the fire one was the last of the elements he was missing, which was crucial for some reason.
Yeah, he had to collect them all. That's what you do when you've got orbs. At this point, we see two like random bad guys, like very clearly bad guys, that are kind of making their way through the forest. They're at the little village shrine. They're kind of like throwing like cans and stuff around, and they see the yokai and then the little fire spirit. They throw some cans at him, and then clearly these two are going to become amalgams. They're gonna get taken over by the two chemis and become the amalgams because Atropos shows up and she blows on a little gold cube, and the magic happens.
It finally turned into a real episode with an actual top level villain again.
Exactly. Then we go back to the village hall, and this is just where we get some hilarious scenes. So Hoshino is kind of explaining to the village that they're not properly. This is where I thought for sure he's a scam because he's like telling them that like, oh, you praise like the kitsune, but you're not protected. But I'm here now. I can make sure that this village is like well protected. And I just was waiting for the next line to be like, for money. But he didn't ever like pull the scam. It was just like he was there, he could protect him, he travels around and he protects villages, and that's his whole thing. So I yeah, it was weird that he seemed so scammy, but thus far we don't actually know for sure that he is. And then we find out that Hodoro called Sabi. He found out that the two spirits are the Kemi cards, Carrie, which is like a little nurse kind of a thing, and Parasol, which is the umbrella leg contraption. You know, like parasol, but Parasol.
I got excited because it keeps the parasol keeps saying "barrow, barrow, barrow," and with my reading issues, I was like, "Oh, this reminds me of Baroba. I miss her."
I I had the exact same experience. I was like, I got really excited at first, like Baroba. Oh no, it's Bara Bara. Okay. And then Sabi also tells them that um, there's cosmic chemis that the Exorcist is using in his orbs. So it's just chemis all around for the Exorcist powers. Um, so they're talking about the chemis, and then we find out a bit more about the Exorcist's backstory. So he presents it as if he went through this big training and this like grueling regimen, but then when we actually see it, he was mostly a slacker, and then he ended up tripping and falling off of a cliff.
So my
And when he landed, well, we'll talk about the falling off a cliff because it was amazing. But he lands, and that's where he finds the orbs, and that's where this starts his whole journey. Now, take it away.
my favorite part about him falling off the cliff, it will be a reference that you might get. It will be a reference that I will say 99.9% of the audience will not get unless you're generally in our age group, more so mine. There was
Can
an
can
old
I can
fox.
I guess what it is?
Yes.
Okay, I was the first thing I thought of was that clip that what's his face always tricks Conan into playing.
I never watched Conan enough to know, so you have to
Okay,
tell me
all
what the
right, all
clip
right.
is.
So I think it's is it Matt Damon? It might be Matt Damon. It might be someone else entirely. There's an actor who shows up and like always cues up a clip when he's on Conan, but like he'll present it in different ways. Like I think it's a new clip for like the movie that he's actually in, but he tricks Conan into playing a clip from an old movie. It's yeah, someone's like falling down a cliff in it. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
So neither does mine, but there was an old Fox TV show called Married with Children that was on for a bunch of seasons. Came out around when The Simpsons did. It was one of the first ones that were like, it wasn't the normal nuclear family of like mom, dad, smart kid, other smart kid, like big happy family. They were more so like a real, like how families would actually probably be. Where like there's real issues, they get annoyed with each other, they half-ass argue and fight, but they care kind of vibe. But a gimmick that they ran almost the entire show was they'd have people fall off the roof every once in a while because they were all kind of idiots. And every
Yeah.
time they fell off the roof, they would just throw the most obvious looking dummy off the roof. And it was always the same roof, or it was always the same dummy. And it was just like a running gag of like, we did it again. No one's going to address it, whatever. And they throw a dummy off the cliff in Kamen Rider that looks so painfully obvious as we found a mannequin and just threw it off a cliff and taped it. That made me laugh hysterically because I was so excited for that reference in my head.
It's yeah, I didn't think of that, but it totally same vibe. That's great. And the actor that I was thinking of that was on Conan is Paul Rudd, actually. And he always plays a clip of the movie Mac and Me, where a kid in a wheelchair flies off of a cliff, and in a similar fashion, it is like clearly a dummy, not a real person, so obviously fake that it reminded me of.
Okay.
So two maybe obscure references for the target audience here for Common Writer. But boy, they that was so like such absurdist humor that Common Writer doesn't normally go to. That God, I laughed so hard at that when that happened in the show. It was
Like
really
all of
good.
all the things they could do, they could have did a digital person. They could have
Yeah.
made it look like the camera was going over the cliff and showed him at the bottom, but they leaned right into it and just threw a dummy off a cliff and taped it.
And like they were in on the joke. Like it's so clear they're in on the joke of it. They're not. No one thought that looked good. It was just a funny thing to do, so they did it, and that's great. Um, but anyway, he has his little powers. He's got his orbs, and that's when he apparently decided to wander around and start, fighting ghost crime. I guess. So Hodoro, Renge, and Kudo decide they're gonna go hunt the Chemis, but they open the door and the Malgams are there. The two guys turned into Malgams that Atropo had created. The the Exorcist Hoshino, he steps forth. He's gonna handle business. He tries to use his powers, and he's shocked to find that something comes out that his powers actually work, which is pretty great. But it doesn't really super affect the Malgams here. Hodoro Henshins, he's Platinum Gotchard. We get to see a little fight now again with Platinum Gotchard. And really we got a taste again of like what Chemi use is gonna be like with Platinum Gotchard, which like it's very fast. Like he's whipping cards out every which way, and really the only thing they do is like color his arms very briefly, and and then he can just like punch with a different color. That's kind of what happens.
Yeah,
So
it's
we're
really
gonna
again
see.
like it's really like the like last week. I think last week was when he switched. That's why I said last. It's the weird missing link to the toys. They could have made the armbands do things. Like that should be a toy piece
Yeah.
of plastic they put out that does things.
Because yeah, it seems like they're keeping it so tame, I guess I'll say, or at least so far. Because like it seems like something you could make as a toy. Because he uses the card, and then it's just an image of the Kemi that like lights up once on the arm plate. And like you could totally do something like that in a toy. Like it's not like a CG projection or anything like that that happens. It's literally just like flat on the arm piece. It's just like, oh yeah, there's Wrestler G. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
like it could could whatever literally be the same technology that the driver knows what things are in there.
yeah,
Like it seems easily programmable to swipe the card with a barcode and have it say like, okay, barcode 3 was swiped, show Hopper 1 on the screen.
agreed, agreed. But it's cool in the show nonetheless. I like that we're getting to like see more Kemi cards more often. It seems like so that's nice. But you know, without having to take all the time to switch forms and stuff. But yeah, that's clearly the approach going forward here. I wonder if when we get new Kemi cards, if we'll still see forms for them, or if this is just it until we get like our maybe one more final form for Hodoro.
Like this will
It'll be
just be the
interesting to
last
see.
thing of like we're just gonna show the pictures of the chemis now kind of deal.
Yeah, I would imagine that's what we're gonna do from now on, even for the new guys, but we'll see. But Hodoro is able to finish off these goons because you know they're just kind of nobodies really, and he gets the Barisal and the Carry cards. Hodoro dehensions, but he thinks the Kemis are trying to tell him something, so we're not really sure what that is. And then back in the meeting room, basically where all the people are at, where Hoshino is at, and all the people from the village, we find out that those two men are land sharks. They describe them as, where basically they are attempting to run everyone out of the village so they can turn it into a dump site for industrial waste, which is the most possible Mighty Morphin Power Rangers plot that has ever existed.
It's also once again a Yakuza plot. Like it's either a
It
Yakuza game
is.
sub story or it's a main actual story of one of the games. And
Got
we
to get the
already
plot.
exactly. And we already did it once with Wrestler G. I don't know if they expected me to remember that, as well as we remembered the Kuda Loving Ghost things. This is twice now they've dipped into the Yakuza game lore well, and I'm
It must
impressed and sad.
maybe like yokai. This is a thing that happens a lot in Japan of like of land war and buying up
It could be.
property by bullying people out of their, you know, based on now of my consuming of Japanese media, it happens constantly. Uh, but yeah, no one really wants to leave, is what we find out here. But they're getting older and they can't really, you know, fight back too much. So they kind of all are like very resigned to the fact that they will probably get pushed out because they can't really do much about it. Hoshino at this point has like a premonition. This is again where he gets very close to the screen, like right up in the camera grill, which is great, and says that when offerings are made to the stars, the door to hell will open and breathe fire into the world. And then he seems very shocked that he had a premonition.
The reboot to the reboot to the reboot of the season has
It
taken some wild turns.
certainly has. And this is kind of where our cliffhanger ends. So there's a guy who heads outside and he kind of screams. We don't really know what he saw. And Hodoro says it's not over yet. So we have our
Which,
little cliffhanger.
yeah, exactly.
So well, this is a wild episode. That's really my summation here.
It it's wild. I also like I can't tell if the rest of the season is going to be way more mini stories like this since we wrapped the giant arc. Like obviously uh the girls still have the gold cube and can still do their things, but it effectively became more of like Rita calls her monster for the week than it used to
Yeah.
be. I feel like
Yeah.
this episode is completely disconnected from the rest of the series basically. Uh Even though like we used to always joke the arcs in the old episodes would wrap up after 2 episodes, maybe 3. Like this feels even more disconnected than those would be, kind of deal.
I think this is probably like a maybe these two episodes or like maybe the next four or so of like have a couple slower stories where they can go, um, yeah, it's just kind of like a little like calm before the storm, right? Uh, so yeah, I mean, for sure, the next episode we'll finish this story up, I think, and then, like I said, maybe one more, but eventually, I think they'll have to start introducing something to fight towards the end to kind of wrap the series up. But maybe we'll have some like back to form, hijinks again for a little while where everybody's mostly friends and mostly happy. Cause like, yeah, I don't know. Like I know people didn't like the beginning of this show as much, where it was a bit more like this, where it was a little bit like Monster of the Week and goofy and silly. Uh, but I think this episode shows like at times like that's really the best that they are. Like I think these actors and kind of like these writers maybe or something, they're really good when they're doing just silly weird stuff too. So it's nice when they get to mix some of that back in with all of the world saving, because then we get stuff like throwing a dummy down the hill, and we get stuff like Hodoro doesn't want a henshin, but the girls force him to, and things like that. So I don't know. I enjoyed myself. I don't want it to be like this forever. I hope we do get a big threat rearing its head again, and I think we will. But for now, I'm okay. Any other final thoughts?
If we can keep it up, like keep making it like Yakuza, I probably will laugh at that because then I can switch my weekly Kingdom Hearts reference to this one time in Yakuza, and that works
Okay.
for me in my
That's
simple brain.
much more palatable for me too. We could talk about Yakuza more. All right. Well, Toby, where can the people find you on the internet?
On Twitter, it's at Life of Tobes, and on YouTube, it's Tobes Plays.
Wonderful. On YouTube, I am at Pretty Deece, youtube.com/Pretty Deece. On Twitter, I am at Pretty Deece Josh. On Blue Sky, I am at meek.lol. You can find me lots of places like that. And of course, you can find Toby and I on any podcasting platform that you could think of. Subscribe to us there. Of course, subscribe on YouTube here. And also go check out the Patreon, please. Patreon.com/the comment writers. As we mentioned, $3 a month gets you all of our bonus content. So, multiple series now that you can watch along with us, and gets you access to the Discord where you can learn all the horrors of toilet bowl hot dogs. and,
The finest chefs are all localized directly within our Discord, and you're missing
yes.
out if you're not learning the recipe for a nice tank dog. Just gonna throw that out
if,
there.
if you ever wondered what it would be like if H.P. Lovecraft wrote a cookbook, well, then join our Discord for all of the horrors of the deep coming from your toilet bowl. Yes, indeed. So patreon.com/the comment writers to check that out. So that is going to do it for us for next week. We will resolve, hopefully, all of this ghost business in Kamen Rider on the next episode. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.